The latest Japanese folk horror film of 2024, the resort part-time thriller, is coming. The film is adapted from Japanese urban legends, full of high energy throughout, with a shocking twist at the end. Quickly tag your gullible friends to watch together. The story begins with a girl sleeping soundly in a hotel, but suddenly there is a noise outside the door as if someone is pacing back and forth in the corridor. She checks her phone and sees that it is already past 2 in the morning. Xiaoying thought she was hallucinating and didn't pay much attention, but for the next few nights, she could hear someone pacing back and forth in the corridor. So one night, Xiaoying gathered her courage and followed the sound, but found nothing. The next morning, she shared her ongoing doubts with her companion. The staff member Yankee told Xiaoying that it was the sound of the landlady going upstairs. It turns out that this inn has always had the secret room. Every night, the landlady would bring a plate of raw fish into it, and then the sound of crunching would come from the room. It only took 5 minutes to finish a bowl of raw fish. Jime felt that this was not something a normal person could do. Yankee thought the same. She had always wanted to solve this mystery, but was too timid to take action. Now with Xiaoying, Jime, and Xiaokong, 3 part-time college students at the store, she felt it was time to hold an adventure activity. Jime immediately clapped in agreement. It turned out she wanted to take this opportunity to promote the ambiguous relationship between her friend and Xiaokong, hoping they would open up and become a couple. So that night, she pulled Yankee to sit outside, letting Xiaoying and Xiaokong go to the second floor to scout ahead. Unfortunately, at this moment, the two of them were just standing dumbfounded at the staircase, not moving. Xiaokong noticed his crush's hesitation and immediately stepped forward, going up the stairs alone. He first opened the door, then stood for a while at the left doorway and slowly crouched down, as if eating something. Xiaoying watched this scene curiously and asked him what he was doing, but Xiaokong did not answer. At the moment Xiaokong turned his head, his eyes suddenly emitted a strange blue light, which startled Xiaoying. But strangely, Xiaokong acted as if nothing had happened, leisurely walking down and saying there was nothing in the room. This surprised Xiaoying greatly, because in her view, Xiaokong hadn't even entered the room. Yet Xiaokong insisted he had gone in and denied eating anything at the door, until Xiaoying pointed out the food residue by his mouth, which scared him into collapsing at the stairway. At that moment, the landlady eerily appeared behind them, seemingly very displeased with their unauthorized trip upstairs, and expressionlessly ordered them to go back and rest. However, the next morning, the landlady unexpectedly greeted Xiaoying and even forced a strange smile, which Xiaoying found incredible. On the other hand, ever since the events of the previous night, Xiaokong felt that something unknown had changed within him. At this moment, a pair of guests came in to stay, and Xiaokong saw a child following them. He asked if she was with the two people. Upon hearing this, everyone was stunned because there was no child there at all. At first, Xiaoying thought she was seeing things, but while they were outside drying the sheets, Xiaokong said there was a child at the corner. Staring at him, Xiaoying went over to look and indeed saw a little boy, but he was engrossed in playing on his phone and didn't glance at them at all. According to Xiaokong, there was a little girl standing next to the boy, and he could even describe her outfit. But Xiaoying was very sure that there was nothing next to the boy except air. She also told Xiaokong that when she and Yankee were registering the guests, they didn't see any child. After hearing this, Xiaokong suddenly felt that he might have encountered something supernatural, so he asked Shimei to help him take a leave. The usually difficult landlady surprisingly agreed very readily this time. Then, she looked at her husband cooking in the kitchen and unexpectedly showed a strange smile. The boy hid in his room and refused to go out, even drawing the curtains tightly. He always felt someone was spying on him. Xiaoying, however, didn't believe in such things, opened the window for him, and told him there was no one outside. The boy cautiously leaned to the window to look, and it was indeed as Xiaoying said. But just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he suddenly became terrified. He looked at Himi, who had just entered the room, claiming someone was standing behind her.
Someone.
No, no one! Someone! Ah!
Xiaokong bluntly said that person wanted to catch him, and then he was so scared that he immediately escaped through the window, running along the road until he stopped at a boat by the shore. Seeing Sakura, who had followed him to prove he was telling the truth, Xiaokong slowly rolled up his sleeve, revealing a red handprint on his arm. This scene finally made Sakura believe that everything Xiaokong said was true. She thought that Xiaokong only started having these strange problems after visiting the second floor of the inn. That night, Sakura decided to go up to the second floor to investigate, but the moment she opened the door, a foul stench hit her and the scene inside left her completely stunned. It turned out the room was set up as an altar, filled with food emitting a rotten smell. The more Sakura looked, the stranger it seemed. Just as she was about to leave, she heard the sound of someone chewing food behind another door covered with talismans. Although Sakura was almost scared out of her wits, she still mustered the courage to open the door, thinking of the tormented Xiaokong. Inside, there were flickering lanterns everywhere and white talismans were pasted all around. In the center, there was a long-haired doll with a dressing table placed in front of it. Opening the first drawer, it contained a pile of human nails and below that, a row of over a dozen teeth. Just as she was about to open the bottom drawer, she suddenly noticed someone staring at her from the mirror. She quickly stood up and pushed open the door behind her, but didn't see a single person. This eerie situation frightened her and she hurriedly left. But when she reached the staircase, she realized her mouth was covered with rotten food, which almost made her vomit on the spot. The next morning, Xiaoying told her best friend Xiaokong about her experience last night. She felt guilty for not finding a solution, but she overlooked something more important.
What if I end up like Gong?
As if Nozomi's words had magical power, just as she finished speaking, 4 elementary school students walked over from the opposite side. But in Sakura and Xiaokong's eyes, there were clearly 5 people. One of the female students seemed to sense that someone could see her and immediately left the group to walk toward the 3 of them. To their horror, her eye sockets suddenly turned black. Sakura and Xiaokong were so frightened that they ran away. But just as they hid in a supermarket, Sakura was attacked by a ghost again. Seeing the other party firmly grabbing Sakura's wrist and not letting go, Xiaokong hurriedly stepped forward to help, trying to pull them apart. However, since outsiders couldn't see the boy's ghost, other customers mistook Xiaokong for a thug harassing a girl. 2 brave men immediately stepped forward to restrain Xiaokong.
Stop right there!
As soon as Sakura finished speaking, she saw the little boy they had just pushed down trying to rush over again. She grabbed a large radish and knocked out the strong man beside her. After rescuing Xiaokong, the 2 continued to run outside. But soon they realized that no matter where they ran, they would be targeted by ghosts. Xiaokong would rather be caught himself than let Sakura get hurt. So he suggested that he distract the ghosts to allow Sakura to leave safely. He also promised that he would definitely manage to escape successfully. But what Xiaokong didn't expect was that while he seemed to be escaping the ghosts, he had actually fallen into their trap and was soon surrounded by 4 ghosts. However, this time they didn't move forward to grab Xiaokong, which surprised him greatly. But then he noticed a tall ghostly figure appearing behind him. When Sakura and the others found him, Xiaokong was already lying on the ground unconscious with his eyes wide open. The innkeeper happened to pass by and said that to save him, they would have to find the island's high monk. On the way, the innkeeper also told them that the reason he set up an altar in the inn was because of an ancient legend on the island. If a child unfortunately goes missing at sea, as long as a shrine is set up at home and food is offered daily, the missing child will eventually return. After saying this, he took out a photo of his missing son. Only then did they realize they had been wrong about the innkeeper couple all along. Upon arriving at the temple, the monk immediately saw that Xiaokong's soul had been taken and he had become a living dead. Then he glanced at Xiaoying and even deduced that she had also been to that room, saying she would be next. The girl opened the door, and what appeared before her was a woman dressed entirely in white, standing 8 feet tall. She bent down and slowly entered the room, revealing a pale face under a red hat. Immediately, she extended her slender hand and instantly extracted Xiaoying's soul. Not long before, to avoid being captured by the evil spirit, Xiaoying had, under the monk's guidance, covered the door with talismans and then, wearing prayer beads, knelt devoutly in front of the Buddha hole. As long as she can endure until the sun rises tomorrow, she can escape the disaster. But just past midnight, a series of howls came from outside, followed by countless handprints and footprints appearing side by side on the window. This scene frightened Sakura, making her tremble. She hurriedly covered her ears, forcing herself to stay calm. After a while, the terrifying sounds gradually faded, but just as she was about to breathe a sigh of relief, there was a sudden loud banging on the door.
Sakura, are you okay?
Hearing it was her best friend Shime, Xiaoying opened the door without hesitation, which led to the scene at the beginning. By the time the monk arrived, it was already too late. Xiaoying's soul had been taken. After analyzing the 2 strange incidents, the monk discovered that the culprit behind the soul extraction was not the group of students, but the legendary 8 feet tall. It is said that the 8 feet tall likes to extract the souls of young people and children the most, and because it has the ability to change its voice or will, it always succeeds. According to his speculation, the 8 feet tall has already placed the souls of the 2 on the 2nd floor of the inn, and only by retrieving the souls before dawn can the 2 be successfully saved. Upon hearing this, Shime turned around to rush to the inn to save them, but was stopped by the monk. The monk suggested that Yankee and Shimei let their souls leave their bodies to control Xiaoying's and the other person's bodies to retrieve their souls. However, if they fail to succeed before dawn, they will never be able to return to their own bodies. Hearing about such a big risk, Shimei and Yankee hesitated. The monk expressed his understanding and kindly reminded them not to regret the decision they make tonight. After speaking, he took out a photo of his daughter from his pocket. It turns out that the monk once made a wrong decision out of cowardice, which led to his daughter's soul being taken, and he regrets it deeply to this day. Inspired by him, Shimei decided to risk her life to save her companions. Yankee was moved by her courage to step forward, but still lacked the courage to help. Helplessly, the monk had to personally step in and began arranging the soul exchange ritual. As the monk clasped his hands and chanted incantations, visible currents of electricity began to appear on his body. The currents grew stronger and even struck down the statue on the altar. Seeing this, Yankee hurried over to prop the statue back up and haphazardly stuck the fallen talismans onto it. Unexpectedly, this action caused an accident in the soul-swapping ritual. Yankee, who wasn't supposed to be involved, accidentally entered Xiaokong's body, while Shimei, who was supposed to enter Xiaoying's body, ended up attached to Yankee instead. At this moment, the high monk, like Xiaoying, woke up. He casually changed into a Taoist robe and reminded everyone that if they made eye contact with the Hachishaku-sama, their souls would be absorbed. Therefore, after going out, they must keep their eyes tightly closed, and only Shimei, who was attached to Yanzaki, could lead them out, as the Hachishaku-sama had no interest in middle-aged men. With that, they got into the car under Shimei's guidance and headed straight for the inn. Unexpectedly, the Hachishaku-sama chased after them with her long, beautiful lei. Shimei wanted to speed up to shake off the pursuer, but due to poor driving skills, she directly crashed into a roadside utility pole. The monk, left with no choice, had to confront the tall figure head-on. Just as the opponent teleported in front of him, the monk suddenly struck with a talisman in his palm, slamming it onto the tall figure's forehead. Unexpectedly, this move only disfigured him, causing little actual harm. Then the monk lured the tall figure to the riverside and activated a pre-prepared formation. The monk drew out the staff hidden in Sakura, instantly summoning a bolt of lightning, and the small island behind him suddenly emitted a dazzling red light. With the support of the formation, the monk struck with his palm, and the 8-foot-tall figure was instantly shattered. They finally managed to switch back their souls before sunrise. However, Little Kong, who never liked eating sashimi, not only ate it piece by piece after switching back, but also flirted openly with Little Ying, which surprised Shimei. Meanwhile, the innkeeper couple knelt before the monk, grateful for his help in saving their son. It turns out that the ones returning to Xiaoying and Xiaokong's bodies are actually the monk's daughter and the boss's son. All of this was actually a trap they had set up in advance. The real Xiaoying and Xiaokong are still trapped on the second floor of the inn.
Alright, that's the story for today. See you next time.